Okay, let's have a look at something called the reciprocal graph in this particular video, and we're going to do some sketches, not accurate diagrams, sketches of reciprocal graphs. You should know from a previous video that when we plot a reciprocal graph, which looks like y equals 1 over x, where you have this fraction with the x on the bottom line of the fraction, that the basic shape, if you do a table of values and plot it accurately, looks like that. That you need to memorise and learn off by heart. That's the basic starting point for all this work. So if I go, that's number one, I'm just going to say we know that. Okay, so you learn that off by heart. Number two, I'm going to look at y equals, now it's exactly the same, but I'm putting a minus in front of it. Well, simply when you get a minus 1 over x graph, all you're going to do, like you did for the x squared, which became n shapes, like you did for the x cubed graph, which flipped the other way when you did a minus x cubed graph, you're going to get a reflection of this curve in the x-axis. So in other words, that part of the curve is going to reflect down there, and you're going to get that. And that part of the curve is going to reflect in the x-axis up there. So you're going to get that. And that is the sketch of y equals minus 1 over x. So that's really simple. And that's the end of the picture. Okay, so what I'm going to do for 3, 4 and 5 is take the basic reciprocal shape, which is that, and then I'm going to start shifting it about like I've done on previous videos for x squared, x cubed graphs. So if I look at number 3, here we go. So for number 3, if I said to you, let's have a look at y equals 1 over x plus 4, and I said let's sketch that. What we've got is a basic reciprocal graph, which is this two-part graph that you need to learn off by heart, and it's moved 4 places up. So what we get is this setup, y and x axis, like so. Now, all we do is the normal reciprocal graph, can you see, I'll draw it for a second, I'll rub it out in a minute, looks like so, and so you get the reciprocal graph, and it tends to shoot off but never actually meet the x-axis. And the same here, it shoots off towards the x-axis. But what we're doing now is moving things up 4 places. So if you like, that line there where the graph shoots off to, like that, actually moves up 4 places. So what I'm going to do is, let's get rid of this now, because that's y equals 1 over x. I need to do y equals 1 over x plus 4. I need to move things up 4 places, so you indicate 4 there, and you need to draw in a dotted line across there, like so, and using that now as our reference line, we need to just draw the reciprocal graph, which looks like that, and it looks like that. And that is y equals 1 over x plus 4. It's just the normal reciprocal, which has been moved up 4 places, and you need to put that dotted line in. That dotted line is referred to in mathematics as an asymptote, but you don't need at this moment in time to worry about that name. So that's question number 3. Okay, so let's have a look at number 4. Get rid of that. How about this one here? Number 4. We've got y equals minus 1 over x minus 2. And I've got to sketch that. So I'm going to do a y and x axis. As soon as I see 1 over x, I think of this two-part graph, which basically looks like that in 2 sections, if you remember. And because it's got a minus involved in it, what we do is we're actually going to be looking at the reflection, which is this bit. Like that. And then what we've got is a minus 2 on the end, so that means we shift it 2 places down. So I'm going to shift it 2 places down here, minus 2. I'm going to draw a new reference dotted line, an asymptote across there. And what I need to do is use that new dotted line, together with my y-axis, to draw this negative reciprocal graph. So it's going to look like that, and then it's going to look like that. And that's y equals minus 1 over x minus 2. Now, the reciprocal graph sketches at this level do not really get that complicated. So I would imagine if you get something like that, that's about as hard as it's likely to get. I suppose you could get something like this, but it's unlikely. So if I do number, I think it was number 5, it may be 4 or 5, I don't know, but here we go. Let's say I did y equals 7 over x. Okay, so I've got to do that. Well, that there is just basically a reciprocal graph, and if you think about it, you could write that as y equals 7 lots of 1 over x. So if you remember, when I put a 7 in front of x squared, it just makes the u shape steeper. When I put a 7 in front of x cubed, it just makes the x cubed graph steeper. So when I put 7 in front of a 1 over x, all it does is give you a reciprocal graph in the same position, but steeper. So your sketch would look something like this. Y and x, instead of a normal reciprocal graph, let's just make things a lot steeper, so it would tend to look much more like that if I actually plotted it in comparison to the ordinary 1 over x graph. Just a steeper one, so you get this curve going much lower down, closer to there than the original one did. A much steeper graph. And that's y equals 7 over x. Okay, that's the end of that one. Okay, I'll do one more, I think, number 6. Really, this is about as hard as you're likely to ever see. Y equals, what if I said to you 1 over x minus 3? So instead of 1 over x, I've got 1 over x minus 3 in a bracket, and then, let's say, plus 2. Okay, so this, again, is a reciprocal graph. You know that because you've got 1 over something with an x involved. Now there's two things going on. You've got a plus 2, which means the whole reciprocal graph is moved up 2 places. But you've also got x minus 3 in a bracket. Remember, inside a bracket, that controls horizontal motion. Minus 3, don't move it to the left 3 places, you move it right 3 places. So right 3, and that means up 2. So when I do my sketch, the ordinary reciprocal graph looks like that. There's a positive in front of it, so it will remain the same basic shape. There's no number there, it's not like a 10 there, which would make it much steeper. So it's the normal sort of steepness, but it's going to be moved up 2 places. So, okay, mark on 2. I'm going to draw that horizontal line like so, as an asymptote, up 2 places. And it's going to go right 3 places. So I'll mark on 3 places right on the positive x-axis. And you need to draw an asymptote at that point there. And so this new setup of dotted lines, the asymptotes, now give you the same picture, but they will be acting as the old x and y axes. So you're going to get a reciprocal graph using these dotted lines as new axes, as it were, and these dotted lines to give the other half. And that is a sketch of 1 over x minus 3 plus 2. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, as hard as we need to go at this moment in time for reciprocals. And that's the end of this video.